All right, so we've learned a couple ways to select elements in CSS, and we've learned a little bit about which rules take priority over other rules. And now we can start to get to the really interesting, really useful parts of CSS, and that is inheritance. Okay, so another rule for you to learn is that if I apply a property to an element, so I select the body and I change the color of the body to red. So my body element holds everything on the page. The rule of inheritance says that if I apply a property to the body, that property is applied to everything inside that element. Okay, so everything is now red with the exception of links, which work a little bit differently, and we'll talk about those. Okay, so this is one of the reasons that we say cascading style sheets. That property cascades down into everything that is inside it. All right, so what this lets us do is it lets us set these really broad rules for our page. For example, a lot of times I'm going to my first rule in my CSS file is going to select the body, and I'm going to do things like set the color of text to something that I want it to be. That's dark gray. I'm going to set my default font family to something that I like, right? And now when I go back to my page, I'm starting to shape the entire page. Right, generally we want almost all of our text to be one color. We want almost all of our text to be one font. And now what I can start to do is go in and fine tune things. And I'm going to do that the same way, where I'm going to start at the broadest level and I'm going to work my way in. So my next rule, I might say, okay, this is all great, but you know, the content in the footer, I want everything in the footer to be a different color. So now I can come in and say footer and set the color to, we'll make it red just so we can see it, right? I can say, okay, well, that's great, but I want all of my headings to be a serif font. So I'm going to set these to Georgia, right? So now these are in Georgia. Everything else is still inheriting Helvetica. I can then get even more specific. I can say, okay, if I have an H2 in the main section, let's make it blue. Okay, so instead of thinking about picking out specific elements and styling those specific elements, I want to think bigger. I want to think broader. I want to think about rules that will apply across all of my pages, right? How do I want my main section to look? How do I want my header section to look, right? Because this is going to apply to all of the H2s in my main section. So I'm starting to set up these really broad styles that will go all the way across my website. And this is how you build something that looks really consistent, that looks really professional and clean, and also that saves you work, right? You want to write these broad rules so that you're not going in and setting the color of everything, right? Because now if I want to tweak my color, right, let's say that I kind of want to go to a lighter gray, I only have to change that in one place, and it's going to cascade down. All right, so in future videos, we're going to start getting more specific with selectors, and then I know everything's still just like terribly hideous at this point, but we will start to work on spacing and what's called the box model, so our pages will start to look like real pages very soon.